if you want to bring up whatever you've got in terms of your page, it might be already in your mind, Mrs. Grant. Very good. Very good. What I'd like you to think about are 3 staging posts in relation to our mapping that we did earlier. I want you to think about the first, an opening line as you're beginning your map. I want you to think about walking to a place in the middle of the text, and I want you to just find a line there. And then I want you to find the very last line of your text. So those are the lines we're just going to work with at the moment. And I want you to apply the work we've just done, the sort of the physicalizing. So I want you to speak and move your first line, walk in your mind's eye the journey, find something in the middle and something at the end. So it's just a sort of beginning to apply breathing and physical tracing and trying to get this off the page in as short a time as possible. So
we choose any line we want, or the very first?
The very first. I think we'll have the opening of everybody's poem and see if you can find the physical shape of that first line.
Sometimes it's very long.
It's fine. This is what we're finding. I mean, this is what we're going to find. We're trying to now move from the macro, the sort of generic core things you can do, to how do we actually work the lines you have in front of you. So they're very long, they're complex or whatever. Shorter in songs of experience. We'll find something from this. The challenge. Don't take too long on it. It's one line, a physical shape. So sound it out. Sound out your first line and make yourself a shape. Walk to something in the middle, make another shape. And walk to the end and your poem goes first. Okay, and go. I will sing you a song.
Lo, a shadow of horror is arisen.
Brilliant. Keep going then.
To see a world in a grain of sand.
Of the sleep of all alone, and of the passage through eternal death, and of the awakening to eternal life.
Brilliant. Keep going, lovely.
The last judgment, when all those who are cast away to trouble religion.
I don't have any shape. Stolen and perverted writings of Homer and Ovid, of Plato and Cicero.
Okay, so when you haven't got an image, can we put that text down and give her physicalize what she's just said?
I don't think I want a physical image.
Sorry?
I don't think I want an image.
We're going to give you one then. We're going to mirror what you're saying, okay?
Okay.
So we're trying to make sure that what we're doing is sculptural actually, it's physical language. So can we just respond physically to
the stolen and perverted writings of Homer and Ovid, of Plato and Cicero.
okay? Splash, good.
There is a smile of love, and there is a smile of deceit.
Ebb and flow there. Forward and back, lovely.
To see a world.
Beautiful, lovely, lovely.
The dead brood over Europe. The cloud of vision descends over cheerful France.
Lovely. Let's just take the last three, if you want to put
Yeah, I really struggled. I just couldn't think of like shapes at all.
Yeah,
I'm really sorry.
And this is the same for everybody who's not familiar with moving bodies in public, and I've been doing this for about a zillion years, so it's, when you're not familiar with it, just think what we do in ordinary life. We move forwards. And think about your map, think about making a progression. Just think of moving in so that your body and your language has something happening together. Don't have to be any more complicated than that. Then you could always try moving backwards, that very simple thing. So just try moving forward as you say that first three words. Yeah.
The dead brood over Europe.
Brilliant. Say it again, keep coming.
The dead brood over Europe.
And then tell that person over there, quickly.
The dead brood over
And
Europe.
behind you.
The dead brood over Europe.
And over there.
The dead brood over Europe.
Good. And make sure that every part of all of that message is heard, because we might not catch every bit. So the dead really gets on the physicality of that word. So I want you to send each word, each person a word in your sentence. Go.
The dead brood over Europe.
Brilliant. So it's nice. And do it to this side.
The dead brood over Europe.
And then move and do it to individuals. Move close to them. Go.
The dead brood over Europe.
Good. So we're already getting some kind of purpose, some sort of physical energy. How does that?
This is a lot easier. It starts to make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just not being so fearful of that. And I think it's when you're practicing at home, I think it's very important that you think about the full body and being in motion, because I think that will keep you from being quietly interior and just retreating back to the page. So I think we've got to try and make this work as sound and physical. It's lovely. Okay. Really catch a quality there, do quality in that pitch and a quality. Just try this again, and see if you can just let it be small space. Yeah, go.
It must be air.
Yes, excellent. Again.
So, I lost my verse.
Yeah, is it
I
there?
lost my picture.
You lost a picture, okay?
Yes, sorry. In even females sleep winter in soft silken veils.
Let's just try that. We'll start the first two words. Nabe.
In soft silken veil.
In soft silken veil. So we're going to mimic, we're going to feed that back to you. So give it to us. We'll find the quality. See what the quality of that lightness is.
Quality
We'll
silk.
Yeah, we'll give you silk back. You give us silk, yeah?
So,
Just have it.
in even females sleep the winter in soft silken veils.
So we just want that bit in soft silken veil. So just give us that bit, yeah?
Soft silken veils.
Soft silken veils. Yeah. Is that how it feels inside?
Airy quality.
Air.
Airy
Very airy. Yeah. And then you have to think how much of a listener can bear all air. Because if it's all air, sometimes we don't listen.
Must be light.
Well,
Light
it's
those.
well, what do we want when we have a listening? We need to find the quality of our tone. And I think
I
that's
cannot
right.
pronounce it strongly. It must be light.
Well, that's interesting, but I think
It cannot be pronounced strongly. I'm sorry. Sorry for butting in.
no, you're not butting in. I think it's an interesting discussion. How do you actually manifest the quality of your piece? Because if I've got a strong piece, I'm just going to do a strong message on it. It's fine for discovery, but it might not let the listener come. So there's a point of discovery here that we're all finding. And then I think there's a point where we have to bear in mind, what can the listener?
And it has to be intriguing to some extent.
Intriguing.
It must be intriguing.
But that's an interesting point about poetry reading, and
My task is to allure me.
I would say your task is to honour Blake.
Yes.
And Blake's already done
I
it.
think your task is to be clear so people get interested in the words.
But it's a very interesting debate.
rather than the way you're reading.
The way of reading is more crucial, more important.
I wouldn't be able to understand you if I was listening to a recording. I'm sorry.
No, it's an interesting debate. It's an interesting question.
That is a lot of
Aesthetics.
words.
And, you know, we could be here for a very long time discussing this. And I think you're absolutely right in raising that. I would raise other issues about that. I think that Blake is the person who's done the thinking for us. And written, and this is an aesthetic that I would choose as I train in the English Academy here, where you don't put your own sensibility after you've explored. You have to keep finding what did Blake mean by that line, and what is the vigorousness of the line. But we'll move on because other people will have other opinions. Thank you.
It's a very interesting point, because when I read Blake, I will think how Blake would read those poems.
Probably a good idea.
Yes, it's difficult.
Well, we never know. We'll never know. But he gives us a lot of hints about that. There's a great sense of his own burning presence, his own London sound, his musicality. He would sing sometimes. So they give us clues how to work the line. What's your line?
Eno, the aged mother. Eno, aged mother.
So, Eno,
Aged mother.
aged mother. Okay. Aged, yeah. So let's have this, give that to one person and another. Yeah?
Eno, aged mother.
Yes. Slow it down. Really slow. Feel the contact of all that muscular words.
Eno, aged mother.
And to the side quickly.
Eno, aged mother.
And then really slow.
Eno, aged mother.
Good. So we're just trying to find, why I'm disrupting you like that is to find different patterns, so you don't just fall into your own conversational pattern. So we don't want to be just conversational, but we don't want to be overly theatrical would be my gambit here. And it's somewhere between the two. Now, if you're fed up with standing, you might want to all get your chairs back, because I'm going to keep us doing this for a minute. How are we doing on our feet? Are you good? You okay there? You good? Okay. All right, we'll sit in a minute. If you want to sit, please feel free. Let's move on, yeah.
Trembling, I sit day and night. My friends are astonished at me.
Okay, good. So let's get
Shall I
everybody...
move? I just...
Yeah, do what you feel like. Good. Give everybody a word on this side. They've been cheated, yes.
Trembling, I sit day and night. My friends are astonished at me.
Good. Don't cut away from us. Just give...
I'm sorry, I'm just choosing one line at random.
What's really nice, and this is a nice model for everybody, is that as you're doing your reading, you are making contact with another listener, a literal listener. Many great people who work on the radio talk about you speak to one and you'll speak to everybody. And I think it's helpful. And what we might do sometimes is a physical touch, so that you can remember that my words are making contact, you know. So to try that, one word, one contact, and it just gets you
Each word,
each word, a different person, a different contact, because you kind of vaporize away a bit. So just stay in one, yeah. Go make contact.
Trembling.
Physical.
Oh, you mean I go up to her? I go.
Trembling.
Trembling.
Move on. Good.
I sit day and night. My friends are astonished.
Good. Stop there. That's lovely. All right. So what did we get there? What would we call that? Muscularity. Separation. There was some rhythm because of the movement. It may not be. There was variation.
Chunks.
Contact.
Chunks.
What was that?
Chunks of words.
Chunks. Yes, we got it. And the words came according to the movement you chose, that action. It may be nothing to do with Blake's particular rhythm, but what we got was word specificity, and I think that's an important part of our job, because we have so many words, and the eye can suddenly think, oh, I'm just going to skate over this, and it becomes a little bit like hoovering. You just kind of you don't notice what you're gathering up anymore. So it is about being individual as to the grain of sand and specific. And also, in the micro journey that we're going to do, is to find how does word by word fit to the rhythm of the line. At the moment we're just sort of separating and finding, did you say compact?
Yes.
Is that the word?
Compact.
Compact. Compact.
And compact.
Yes. Compact. Lovely. That was nice. Okay, that's good. Tim, Tim, I beg your pardon. How do I do that? Oh, that's you were in the right.
Thus, Ennion wails from the dark deep.
So we have a lot of movement of sound there, and interestingly you're finding it through the movement of the head, and that was, it kind of gave us a sort of spacious quality to that. How would it be if you again perhaps did that deliverance? It's about coming out of that vision and to someone's earlobe. So would you like to come in the middle, Tim? And then think, make a choice who you'd like to send each word to. So it's about sort of you checking your own process and then making a contact, just with sound. You don't need to touch anybody. So think it and slow it down.
Thus, Ennion wails from the dark deep.
So I think already we get that specificity, which is lovely, and something. We had quite an interesting visual cue from you, and I think probably that would be quite exhausting, but nevertheless it gave you something about momentum to find the spaciousness in that language. But that was nice. I think it's a lovely settling that you gave us there. Thank you. Okay.
I will sing you the song of love.
There's something emblematic, isn't there? The body does it, I will give you, and then I fall into loss. And all we have to do is kind of think, well, what has that actually done for you in terms of opening out the line? And not to retreat. I will sing you. And that moves into the cadence of Blake in the end. And so maybe we should have the sing you of and loss. Let's do counterintuitive. Keep it moving up and see what happens. Come into the middle again.
I will sing you the song of loss.
Good, of loss. And you have to stand in the middle of loss to be Blake and bold and brave.
Yeah.
Loss. And just face loss. 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 We all know that. Loss, Blake and it's kind of got that. So just give us that and walk around repeating it.
Loss.
Yeah. I want the whole phrase.
I will sing you the song of loss.
Go one more time.
I will sing you the song of loss.
Can you just do a little run? Just around.
I will sing you the song of loss.
Little trot. Little trot. As you go.
I will sing you the song of loss.
Good. Do it one more
I
time.
will sing you the song of loss.
Come into the middle and just say it on its own. Run to the middle. Get the body. Up.
Loss.
I will what?
Loss.
What will you do?
I will sing you the song of loss.
So what are we doing there by asking for the running? What does it do? What do you hear happen?
Yeah.
So we're hearing what? We're hearing vocal energy, we're hearing psychic energy, we see something moving, I guess, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that's really what we've got to kind of do in our workings. Keep it energized, keep it to make contact with that. It's lovely to think that there's someone you're reading to. I think that really does help. At the other end of the internet, wherever they are, you know how people are getting access to your recording. It's helpful to think you've got a reason for doing it, and to someone. If that helps, use it. That's beautiful.
But the divine lamb stood beside Jerusalem.
Lovely. Dare to set that open. It's beautiful. Just open your arms. And speak as you move in. That was so lovely. We just do that lovely gentle forward move in. Yeah, lovely. And
But the divine lamb stood beside Jerusalem.
yes. Lovely. Nice and simple. Something flowing, something from the south. Lovely.
Tiger, tiger, burning bright.
Fantastic. And something about that is a structural use as well. When we come to finding out how is our line different, some of us have got very long lines, and of course we've got this lovely hoof, bright. And then we one thing, for those of you that have got the short line, the sort of short lyric and the song quality, to break away from rhyming just being very routine, find a different end body shape, but yet you've got to know it's there. So it's always that balance. Know the rhyme is there, but don't hit it so hard that the reader goes, the reader is, and the listener is kind of, you know. So with yours then, let's just experiment with that. Can you get me to the next couple of lines? Kind of way, burning bright.
In the forests of the night.
So just essentially pause before.
In the forests of the night.
And the night, maybe that's where that image stuff that we're doing, if you can see, and give yourself a moment before you say night. So start at the top.
Tiger, tiger, burning bright.
Good.
In the forests of the night.
Yeah, see it. And the more you see that, that will become, you know, it's a classic rhyme. I asked my accountant this morning, he said he'd never heard of that, and I couldn't believe it. Most people seem to have heard this home. I was stunned. But we've got to come afresh to that, and I think that's a way of doing it. Just really picture it, and you can have a suspensory moment just before you actually hit night and see night, and that's lovely. Right. Okay.
Gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice.
Good. So to start us off in the beginning, just give us that opening.
Gave thee such a tender voice.
Gave thee, is it?
Yeah.
Gave thee. And just gesture to someone in the space. Yeah.
Gave thee such a tender voice,
Good.
making all the vales rejoice.
Lovely, nice little movement there. And I think, but stay with your commitment. If you are giving someone, let the voice follow. It gave thee what? Yeah. What is it?
Get such a tender voice,
Gave thee such a tender voice, and then what?
making all the vales
Making.
rejoice.
Tell that person that next bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So really make sure they listen to what you're saying. Earn it a bit. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and her. Sorry, I'm doing hers and things. I'm so sorry.
Gave thee such a tender voice,
Look at them.
making all the vales rejoice.
Good. And make sure you stay specific to communication. It's a strange mix we have to do all the time, isn't it? Take risks, be physical, but then communicate. And communicate to someone.
Yes.
And I think that's, you've got a lovely range, but make sure you communicate to someone.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, lovely. Okay.
Five windows light the cavern man.
So lots of expressive energy and stuff. And again, it's about making sure it's specific and make sure everybody gets every bit of that, so you now move it into communication rather than just sound. So let's go round at this end. A word at a time.
Five windows light the cavern man.
And think about five. It's quite a lot. And it's five what?
Windows.
And five windows what?
Light
And five windows like what?
the cavern
The what?
man.
The cavern. So it's a bit sort of when grammar gets in the way. There's a lot of grammar in the way. So, you know, it's where grammar is a muscular thing or a momentous thing. Don't be phased by that. Try and bring it into your... This is a story that has to be told. The storyteller is very clear. Just try that one more time. Really make sure everyone's listening. Like we're a bunch of kids. And just settle us down a bit. And then start when you're ready.
Five windows
Yes.
light the cavern man.
Yeah, good. It's already getting a bit more sort of fleshy and specific, and it's about that, I think, going through it, communing with what folds next, what comes next, so that your mind stays with what comes next, and we never skate over the top. Thank you. All right, we're with you.
So sang the fairy, mocking.
I think so sang the fairy. Lots of S's. Lots of fun there. So sang, and who's the fairy? So sang the fairy. So sang the fairy. So there's an action here. Could you do a fairy? Because you're very good at line. Just do that. So sang a fairy, mocking. Could you do it?
Mocking it.
Yeah, so just do it without the sound down. Yes, just do it with the sound tone down and just give us a and then describe what you're seeing. Go on, and speak with those words.
So sang a fairy, mocking.
So sang a fairy.
So sang a fairy, mocking.
And what was the fairy doing? opening lines mean we've got something of our own consciousness of the world we're in, what's specific to the line and the poem, and we're communicating to someone. I think those are things, if you can retain some of that. Then you've got to think, what is your particular journey of your poem? How long have you got to go? Is it a long way?
When you say someone, do you mean, I don't know, maybe intuitively sort of do it, but do you have an image of a person that you're talking to, or do you just like kind of, just like you're connecting to somebody, or do you have any, is it like, oh, that person in the class, I'm talking to?
Okay, very good question. Why don't we get some chairs? Because I know some of them are probably a bit tired. Let's do the chairs out to the centre. And I'll answer that. Investigating what Blake has given us, you know, and it's what Blake has given us is just not in that left part of our brain anymore. It's we've got to bring multi-dimensionality as much as we can. We're not talking about training with actors and running around the room doing. So I've just given some provocations to allow you to think, oh, this is a bit more fleshy or a bit more alive from my own intention, and that it's going to be meaningful for people to hear you speak these words from yourself. You're the conduit. You know, and that's the interesting bit. Otherwise, we put it through a computer and we just kind of, you know, we run it totally anti-Blakey, but we do something very mechanistic about it. But we're not. We're coming from you, and that's exactly right. You.
Are there any really practical things that you might do while we're making recordings in order to get in order to help us to get that sense of contact with the listener? Like, for example, would it be silly or would it be helpful if I had like somebody with me as I was making the recording?
Well, I mean, were you going to offer a suggestion there, or is it?
Well, it's not stupid to have somebody in the room listening. I mean, I once made a recording and I talked to my teddy bear. I had piano
reading is a relational act. Writing has a different form of duplicating itself, reproducing itself in the world, but I think we think about sound waves, and sound waves carry, and they have to land somewhere for meaning to transpire. So we're always trying to communicate meaning, and I think that teddy bears or to have someone, and that's why some of us make contact with someone, as if you're this goes to you, and when I do that, my voice is kind of filled with that, or otherwise I just vaporize a bit, so something that gets you in tune with someone. An exercise we do for adapting students is, think about the earlobe, and I'm going to aim this at your earlobe. And if I can start to think about carrying, that also gets the voice a little bit louder than it might ordinarily be. So it starts to get you a little bit more, in a greater spectrum. But it's also aiming at you. So, I don't know, earlobes are quite nice because you're getting, awakening the ear of the listener. And so maybe your friend in the room could be that.
Yeah, I'm not doing
Teddy bear, yeah. Someone, it's good to find someone who wants to listen. Because if you want to speak, we're trying to find that kind of activate the listening ear.
I mean, why so often I've been to the theatre recently and I haven't been able to hear what the actors have said.
Yeah.
So they're obviously not aiming at my ear.
Well, maybe not.
Is it a lost art to be able?
Well, I mean, we won't go into this. It's a huge art, but I think for your purposes, for reading, I think, and because we're not having to amplify it, particularly, it's going to be quite an intimate thing. So you can take your physical life but like when they do the arches, they move. The radio voice moves, and I think the more we take from that helps us. So in your room, if your recording isn't going to be too affected by this, try to think that you are in motion, and that not static. I think we're trying to get away from just being reading the phone book voice, the ordinary voice, the voice that we receive so automatically, that we don't listen anymore. We're having to do something a little bit exceptional in this exercise, which is to deal with heightened voice. It's not conversation anymore, but it has to act like conversation does. It has to relate. So I think it's paradoxical. I think there are things we have to contain and relate to, the difficulty of that. But it's a challenge, it's funny, but mostly I think you just have to think it's a physical act, and sound is physical. I don't know if that answers that, I hope so.
yes, no, thank you.
Yeah. So what we've got then is a sense of finding a beginning, something about the mind's eye, something about relating it, and thinking about the textual evidence that you've got. And this is where many voice classes might begin, for example. What does your eye see on the page? So, if you'd like to look at your eye to the page, have you got long lines or short lines? Have you got dense prose? Does it break up with space? Just give us some feedback, just what you've got around. What does your eye see?
Short.
Yeah.
Strong lines.
Short, sharp, strong lines. And that's almost scriptural. We know we've had a good key and we've got some rhyme going on. So clearly line endings are important, in whether your line is long or whether it's short, and you get some evidence. We've sort of given you some macro tools, and now I think it's about how you work your marks on the page. What instruction you start to give yourself about how you're going to handle the verse that you've got. As you know, we started with breath work. Who's got very long lines on the page for each line? Yes, 1, 2. And we start to find out what kind of meter we've got. Because we have to find out whether it's regular or how many syllables, extra meter, or whatever. We've got to find some evidence of what we're dealing with. Because this is where the deep textual work is. So you give yourself work through it methodically, word by word, line by line, and think, what's it doing? What's it doing, and what does it require from you? A lot of breath, little breath. The breath is going to be key. If you can breathe a long line, that's going to be really a key to finding your momentum through the poem. And you've got a different challenge, which is to keep the images strong, and quite truncated, quite predictable rhymes. So you've got to keep it specific, and that will stop it being too predictable. But that challenge. The someone with a long line, Tim, give us an example of how long one line is on the page.
They're all different lengths.
Give us a selection.
A selection, okay.
Give us three lines.
Well, the first bit's all one thing, actually. Of the sleep of all, and of the passage through eternal death, and of the awaking to eternal life. This theme calls me in sleep night after night, and every morn awakes me at sunrise. Then I see the Saviour over me, spreading his beams of love and dictating the words of this mild song.
Okay, good. So thank you.
The next bit's still around 6 sentences.
Okay, so what do you feel if we were drawing a map in the sand? Have we stopped yet? Have we stopped at anything specific? Was the passion moving on?
Well, the sunrise is a natural.
Yeah. So there's a natural event occurring, but somehow there's a momentum to that. It doesn't seem to cease yet.
Because it's announcing the next speech, which is Jesus talking.
Yes. So one technical thing underneath all that is you've got to have the wherewithal to keep the thought moving, and to also allow it to land as communication, so that it doesn't become just a great sound picture, but that it also has some sense of the narrative. So it's where we juggle narrative, isn't it, I think? The storyteller. So take us to the top again. Just give us the very first thing that you say.
Of the sleep of all.
Excuse me, just start that again.
Of the sleep of all.
Of the sleep, okay. So we need to awaken us to the subject there. Of the sleep of
All row.
and
Well, there's 100 ways to that. And of the map.
and there's somebody else.
And of the passage through eternal death.
Keep that simple. It's literally I'm the storyteller. I'm going to tell you about, and I'm going to tell you something else.
Okay.
Let's just try that again. Very
From
simple.
the top.
From the top, lovely.
Of the sleep of all row. And of the passage through eternal death.
Through eternal death. Don't script that. Just give it quite. Yeah, give us the whole sounding of it.
Eternal death.
Good. Death. Go on.
And of the awaking to eternal life. This theme
Good.
calls.
We've got these lovely ands, and I think that's just a lovely storyteller. There's this coming up, and there's this coming up, and a little bit more too. So you can use the grammar as a nice sort of building blocks.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that. So just take those three again. Yeah.
Of the sleep of all row. And of the passage through eternal death.
Yeah.
And of the awaking to eternal life. This theme calls me in sleep night after night, and every morn awakes me at sunrise.
Good. It's lovely. And before you take off, if you like, just keep thinking, what am I saying and who, and what is it about? In the same way at the beginning we were trying to walk into and find specific pictures in our mind's eye. Again, with the narrative, what follows from what? You know, I had to go through my text this morning and think, who are the characters in this story? Who is talking to who about whom, when, where, and why? And it's a good actor's lesson. Who are you talking about? To whom? When is it set? Where are you? And what does it all mean? So you keep that kind of inner dialogue as you go through your text and see how it's unfolding. This will give you structure. It doesn't give you the answer. It's not going to pin it down. It's not going to limit you in some sense. It's literally the journey man or woman through the text now. Rather like the engraver, rather like what is it that he's made here? What line length? What content? What kind of words are evoked? You know, have we got highfalutin, very abstract, or is it literally related to a character mood, or is it an event? You know, literally those kinds of things. And mark the key words that seem to be carrying the weight. You know, here we've got. I think those ands are really fun. They're really vibrant. Is this going on? Is this happening? Is this happening? Come on, listener, come in. You know.
Picks up again.
Yeah, something's going to happen. Someone else got an example of. I forget the name. I'm sorry.
But the divine Lamb stood beside Jerusalem. Oft she saw, and then it's a new line. So shall I go on?
Well, go on, because then we're dealing with the follow-on, aren't we, the ensemble. What do we do with that?
But the divine Lamb stood beside Jerusalem. Oft she saw the lineaments divine, and oft the voice heard, and oft she said, O Lord and Saviour, have the gods of the heathen pierced thee.
Okay. So really what we're getting there is, and I think it's something that we all do with your text, how long does the thought go on, really? The thought to thought. And it's the same with Shakespeare, it's the same with anything. What's the thought length of this particular stanza, in this particular poem? And we're finding that the thought length is going to be very different according to the mood and the temperature of the piece itself. So you gave us a point of issue at the beginning. Can you illustrate that for us? Show us, you didn't know whether to go on or...
Yes, well, the first line goes into the second line.
So there's a follow through, but
Yes.
there's a break in the line. So we've got a line ending,
Yes.
but the sense carries on.
Yes.
And we've all got to make decisions about that kind of thing. But we've got to honour it because Blake's written it that way, otherwise we'd have written it differently. So it's about what does it make you feel at the end? There's a sort of moment at the end of a line, but yet it still carries on. So see if you can find the energy that it gives you to move on, but break the end just slightly.
But the divine Lamb stood beside Jerusalem. Oft she saw the lineaments divine, and oft the voice heard, and oft she said, O Lord and Saviour, have the gods of the heathen pierced thee.
Okay. Perfect sense, really, happening there. And you know, again, those ands. I didn't quite know whether the line broke there, but it seemed to follow on absolutely right. Well, can I just see what you're thinking of?
It's quite, this poem is full of long lines, and it's full of, things going on to the next time.
Right, well, I think the important thing is you make a choice. Everybody don't let that hit you sideways. Just make a choice about that in terms of interpretation. And remember, there's a storyteller in you. It's got to carry on with sense. Where's the bit you just did? But the divine Lamb stood beside Jerusalem, oft she saw. So we've got saw is on the second line on its own. It's a word. So there'll often be an illumination because of the structure, asking you to see something fresh, feel it deliberately in that form to point something up. Yeah?
But I wonder if
How you pick up
written it right at the end. The saw just happens.
Sometimes it's going to be
a bit of a
additions,
printing.
yeah. Sometimes it's going to be printing, and sometimes you're going to think that that's going to carry through.
Yes.
But you've still got to connect it to that, the lineaments divine. Because you've got all these capitalisation as well, haven't you? You've got punctuation, it might be idiosyncratic, you've got capitalisation where you're not sure what does that mean. But I think ultimately you can think about the sense of the story and guide us through as we would with any story. People please argue with me if that's not making sense for Blakean aficionados, but I think there's something about we have to take the textual evidence as our guide. That's certainly what we do in theatre. Certainly we trust the editions, although there are multiple editions. But I think we have to say, in order to give our authority equal status, we recognise ourselves a lot this evening. We have to then turn to the text and say, well, what authority has been given by the text, the structure of the text?
Punctuation is an issue, actually, particularly in prophetic books. Because the different editors have done different things.
Yeah. Not dissimilar
I'm
to
actually
the
finding how to do my edition, basically. It's stuck with copyright.
Yeah. It's not dissimilar with the discussion about Shakespeare and trust and distrust and the folios, and I think you have to, you can make a micro-study of that and compare lots of editions, depending what sort of time and depth you wish to go into, but I think ultimately for these purposes, think about your role as trying to get the image, the language, the thought, the structure out for the listener. So ultimately, the triangulation I'm talking about is allowing the reader to come to you, ultimately. So you're creating a viability of Blake's vision and language as a speaker. And then people who don't know Blake can come towards that vision. You're not thrusting it down their throat, you're doing a good interpretive job. That's really what we do. So, yes, please.
Does anyone have any thoughts on missing words? Where there's words missing?
There are editions where they're in, so.
That's because the editors have either, used equipment and think they found them or they've added them in. I think Blake put in the missing words because he wants us to think like it's a puzzle. You know those games where you fill in the gaps? I think sometimes he does that because he wants us to interact with the text.
I don't know which one are we talking about.
Well,
Everyone.
Jerusalem has them.
I'm doing the vision for Last Judgment, which is from the notebook, so it's
Oh,
quite fragmentary anyway.
I mean, I would ask you to make intelligent choices. And I think we may also make an academic study and understand as we go, but for a beginning, we're just going to say, how can I, really make this something that is compelling, if you like, to honour something, and make when students are in doubt, in the auditions, or anything they've got to do, is just make a choice. And make a choice sometimes is better than an indeterminate moment. Just step in, and then someone, you can grow from that point, but if you don't make a choice, you haven't really got anything to go with.
The first meta-press edition of the Songs of Business and Experience was done by a man called Garth Wilkinson, who was a doctor. And Gilchrist, the early biographer of Blake, said of this edition it would become very rare, almost as rare as the original. He said the doctor put the poems in an order of his own, and sometimes with words of his own, which were not an improvement always.
Well, people are always ready to poke around and adjust and claim their own, and so I think it's a bit like history of being human, isn't it? There's layers and layers and layers, and I think it's your part in the layering, I think, for you to say, all right, I'm going to have a good go. I'm offering my flesh and blood and live voice here to make this story something of interest.
As long as there's a barrier.
Well, I think that's where we're coming to, what do we have to do? What kind of effort is it? And that's where we're having this discussion about the aesthetics and the work.
Sorry. If it was missing words, it's the Last Judgment, right? So you probably have to get hold of the Bible, I would have thought, from that time that he would have been reading, and sort of then maybe get an idea in a sense of it from that. I would have thought to have an idea what the missing words
Anybody else got a solution?
but maybe other people have to.
I can mention a couple of Blake scholars who I trust. One is Kathleen Rain, who did lots of writing on Blake, and the other one is who wrote Fearful Symmetry?
Northrop Frye.
Northrop Frye.
Amazingly good.
He's amazingly good, isn't he?
And Bentley really knows that, when in doubt, he knows like all the variations on things. If you get two editions and you see what the two editors have done, that can sometimes be hilarious.
King James Bible, maybe.
That'd be one.
Yeah, King James Bible. Have a look and just sort of get a sense of it at least, and then maybe you actually find particular things he's referring to.
But you can get facsimiles of the original. That's the best.
Just aware of time, I think that we might be able to resolve some of these things in perhaps another forum, because the details are very, very important. And it is a very, it's about the detail and the attention you're paying. I was just hoping to give you some more general moldings and effects for you to think about. One thing I want to also leave you with is, do not be afraid to sing your line, as we have done. Before you record, or even before you record, sing the whole thing. Be like Blake. It opens out the voice, it frees you from being ordinary, but it gets some of the inflection, it gets some of the range in the voice. And then once you've sung it out, then immediately just speak it. And you'll notice that the voice has just got that little bit more vibrancy to it, because you've moved it away from just being ordinary. And that's a great thing to do. So sing it out. What I'd like to just finish off is you pick your last line, and we're just going to sing it, however long it is, and just one by one. I'm trying to remember where I started in the group this time. So, have you got a last line?
Did you say sing it?
Yes, sing it any way you like. You can intone it on one note, or you can or think of it as a folk ballad, but just to end our session tonight, so that we hear the end of the arc of your poem,
And the vast ocean rolled and glowed.
And I think we'll copy that, because it's really nice. So we'll do an echo box. One more time.
And the vast ocean rolled and glowed.
And the vast ocean rolled and glowed. Any your way.
Oh, it's so hard.
Is it
Really hard, yeah.
I think
Okay.
in the shower. Here you are.
Well, it's always supposed to be difficult, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Saturday morning's been.
Saturday morning's been. Perfect. Good. It's just lively. Good, go.
Okay.
Little lamb, God bless thee.
Little lamb, God bless thee.
Humanity shall be no more but war and princedom and victory.
Humanity shall be no more but war and princedom and victory.
Well done, brilliant. Thank you. Try to keep it just so we can remember. Good.
To go forth to the great harvest and vintage of the nations.
To go forth into the great harvest
And vintage of the nations.
Thank you.
For everything that lives is holy.
For everything that is holy.
In realms of day.
In realms of day.
But when it once is smiled, there's an end to all misery.
When I was smiled, there's an end to all misery.
I look through it and not with it.
I look through it and not with it.
She trembling with her she trembling with her uncreated phantasm.
She trembled with her uncreated phantasm. Thank you.
I can't sing, I'm sorry. I wouldn't have come if I'd known I'd have to sing. It's my worst nightmare. I got laughed at when I was 4 years old.
It's
I
hard to know. Just speak it then.
So I'll speak it. Thou hearest the nightingale begin the song of spring.
Thou hearest the nightingale begin the songs of spring. Thank you, lovely.
But it is not so with me.
But it is not so with me.
In darkness and deep clouds involved.
In darkness and deep clouds involved.
Urizen wept.
Urizen wept. Let's all do that one again. And really move the pitch up.
Yeah.
Urizen wept.
Glorify thy holiness, or rejoiced in thy great salvation.
Glorify thy holiness, or rejoice in thy great salvation.
Good friend, thy fearful symmetry.
Good friend, thy fearful symmetry.
Does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day?
Well, it was definitely Scylla, Charybdis, who else did you use? Cyclops.
Has not carried, apparently. I just wanted to say that some of you are experienced recorders, but we were going to have another session just on the technical aspect of helping those of you who haven't recorded yourselves before. If you want, we're trying to bring something before the end of August, but if we can correspond, we'll try and find a date and a time. It will be, I guess, in London. But if enough of you feel it would be useful, we can do that, and also just an opportunity to discuss how things are going, if you're experiencing any problems, or just share your progress. Then we can just try and minimise the amount of technical stress in getting you through to the recordings. But other than that, thanks so much for making the effort to do this. It's going to be really interesting to see what we have by the birthday.
Yeah, wonderful. Well done.
Alright, so
we're organising it.
don't forget, just send me an email and we'll work it out, and I'll circulate it to everyone who wants to be part of it.
Thank
I will certainly talk to